this project and Zaid Recyclers. So Zaid Recyclers as...
So the trash have to be papers?
Yeah, we have started paper. We need to find all the means of getting all the waste paper from different offices, from every... So we have so many strategies. Also Takanitira Drive, where we are providing like it's a greener drive so that they go around and pick these materials. So we're trying to improve their welfare as well as health and safety by empowering them so that they work together with us to get more material as well as giving them sense. I mean, it's like improving their job, because sometimes when you see then with the script you find a job for them, but also a decent job to them. So we are trying to find different ways of. We have Tony Romero as one of our partners, and the African International Award also one of our partners, FID and the FID program is also one of our partners. And we also have our partners as we think from our
So then we have the infrastructure there.
So my name is Kuwait. What I do at culture, if you want to change, you have to dedicate resources. You have to dedicate resources to change, right? And you can't dedicate all your resources because your company still has to function. So the magic number that they throw out is 20%.
You're asking where? AWS? Or where?
AWS.
Yeah, so you need to...
yeah, so let's see what we go transform companies.
I thought like everybody needs money.
If it comes
I thought it's going that way. Oh, 3 to 7. But it's closed now.
It's closed because of noise.
So do you think like startups and young business people that understand numbers, the financial part, those who are too much into products?
That's the biggest challenge, especially in the IT sector, is that you find most of the developers are so engaged onto the creativity. Yeah, well, let's say if businessmen would think more and act less, they would do better, but it's hard to do both. It's hard to be creative and still look at the business side of things. So that's where our synergies come into play, where you can continue partners provide business management skills. One other mistake that a lot of startups make is the fact that they think startup capital is all about money. It's not always about money. It's about time. It's about just putting resources together. You could invest into business. So that's what I do. Financial model might be good for somebody else in the future.
You have like a startup premium package?
Countries in poultry, but you first have to get the financial model right, because numbers do not lie. 1 + 1 will never change to being 11. There are a lot of things that you need to have a reservoir. You need to know what you're going to do with the water once you get it. But most people think, let me first get the water. They don't think we want to. It doesn't work for that. You draw it in once you know the purpose. So if you know you're going to develop
something, what are the challenges before the work continue?
Good evening.
Who's a politician? Is the president of the student of St. Joseph.
We are recently working to response. Final years, they used to search for the titles which are very easy to work upon and implement so that they can accomplish the projects, get the marks, and finish the school. So, which is not that, which is against what Smart Lab is going to start recently with the corporates. So, we are very delighted with the chances to participate here, to meet the founders and the startups. And the representative of the students in my university, I'm going to be an ambassador on the students being innovative and we're expecting to have you anytime we want you. Because it needs from the studies, and from here we can have them giving projects which are problem responsive so that they can turn them into the products and make some money, instead of finishing the school and staying home waiting for the employment, as a lot of you have done, like my brother Adrian. So you are very welcome to our universities, especially at St. Joseph Universities. From time to time, I think now we'll be meeting and discuss on proper ways you guys can meet our students. And also, as we have already received some offers from Mr. with startups for our students at.
So I think the point for us to in the last 6 months, yeah, and then you have a clear mind that when you
I think there is nothing I would change, because I feel like I had a very specific and special journey. I created my first company in my second year, so I was very aware of what I wanted to do. And I at PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, I really need to know how business operates. And one of the criteria is when you join the firm, you have to take CPA or ACCA. I was not interested because I'm not an accountant. I was there to see how do business operate in Dar es Salaam or in Tanzania. If you're becoming an auditor, you get to see all the documents of all these guys, all the big people. CRDB, how do they operate? From their customer care side, to the financing issues, to the management, to the board of directors and everything. MultiChoice, all those companies. The plan was 2 years after graduating, I'll be employed, specifically with PwC. I did my internship at KPMG, so I was aware of what it takes to be in those companies. And then after 2 years, I'll quit. I'll focus. For 10 months, I had to quit because I felt like I had enough. So, things which people can do at the university. Also having a clear path of what has to be done after the university. If it wasn't for my mother, I would have quit the university in my second year. Right? She paid a lot of school fees, that's why I didn't quit. It was for her. But now I don't remember where my certificates are, because I don't need them. And most of people pass through a journey too, because you feel like you'll find something different, but you're still at university. We didn't choose the courses we did at the university. It was the TCU who allocated it. Very few who were lucky enough to do what they really love. Like they feel like I'm spending 4 years at RD as architecture and then I'm going to do a career out of it. So for those 10%, it's very happy. But for those 90%, they get fed up with whatever they're taking at the university. The last year is very crucial for planning the map of way forward. For me, in my second year, I started an NGO, which we were funded to brand the NGO. The NGO to another guys. We did the obvious. So the NGO to another people. was a very startup founders, the business guys, a lot of executives, and a lot of business ideas and everything. So that's the time which, when you're bored with the school, you still have to do something. You get out and do this kind of stuff. For you being here now, it's the right thing to do at the right time. You just need to share that to more people. So you have a story to tell to all the people you want to share the thing. Yeah. So concluding, there's nothing I can change in my school life. Because also at the university, that's where I got my girlfriend.
Okay, so you want to, or maybe also you can tell us, because the reason I'm asking about the final year, how about the project? You know, like for us who started like software engineering, so the last 6 months we are actually always doing a certain project.
I am Albert Sechan from WebNAS as operations lead. But I just graduated last year from University of Dar es Salaam, Telecom Engineering. And if there is one thing I would like to insist to students who are doing engineering is choose the kind of projects that, first of all, they are solving problems in the community, because most of the people were having projects which are very nice for grades, then you go off. But if you choose a project which is proper, and also you put your mind to it, knowing that you're solving a thing, eventually you will come out of university and try to push it further so that you can do something for the community. So most students fail to do that because they just find projects from Google maybe, which are just projects for grades so that they can complete school, but they're not really working around the nature of our community, Africa and Tanzania. Excellent.
You want to add something?
I think it's kind of a request, because one of the challenges also that the students in the final year meet while still remaining for their final projects, I can mention it as a financial problem, because a team might have that innovative problem-solving project idea, but when they sit down and have some approximations for it, the cost is going higher than what they're getting from the government. So the project, first we will finish our school, then coming to the team, connecting us to corporate and make it a product. But on top of that, we would suggest that you should give a chance for the students with these innovative ideas that can really solve community problems to see you first, even when they are still at the college, and you present it, and you guys are there, they complete their projects, and it's going to be a product. So that's kind of a request for you successful startups and the corporate.
My name is Fred. That ice block formation, the ice within 10 minutes. So our project. Also, I'm so happy to be here with you, sharing ideas with success people. Also, I need to learn more about the company, which it is going to deal with.
Quick question. The normal ice blocking machine,
Yes.
how long it will take to make the ice block?
For existing system in our country is freezer. Most of the people, they just use freezer, and freezer it took about maybe 2 hours to 3, 4. So as here we came with this idea, we can, for those people maybe which are used to produce ice creams, so they will produce ice cream for very short time. So they will increase the productions. Also, this machine can be used in preserving fish, because most of the places there poster, many establish something there which you're going to sell those fish which are destroyed there. So another thing, this machine is called how this machine can be. Thank you.
In your final year studies, we are dealing with a project known as the Cardiology for Rural Healthcare in Urban Cities. This project was designed by using simplest component and some part of the application pack, whereby the patient can be able to take the measurement of his heart condition, even in the rural areas, and send directly to the doctor. So we have decided that we can establish a biomedical engineering company which will be capable of designing biomedical equipment of low cost and making the maintenance of biomedical equipment like CT scan, ECG machine, and other equipment.
Hello everyone. My name is Paul and I work with IB Bank and the unit called Digital Lab Unit. So so basically what we do under Digital Lab Unit is okay. So it's a new unit established with the goal of fintech companies mostly, not specific as fintech only, but also other innovative companies, because the strategy for the bank right now is to try to open up the current banking model to more of an open banking model where we leverage the customer acquisition through third-party companies.
So later on we're going to have a quick panel discussion with Paul. Yeah, because we understand there is a lot of process if you want to do work with these people, so that at least we can understand and start getting ready from the beginning. Yeah. And then also we have some marketing experts. We have Vincent.
Hello guys. Yeah, so we are dealing with helping business startups, and you have mentioned something relating to money. Probably you can see me when you're done with the
session. Hi everyone. My name is Salmo Wadi. From SSC Capital, we are a financial investment company. We also manage Tanzania Angel Investors Network. We manage Tanzania Angel Venture Capital Network as well. So within the Tanzania Angel Investors Network team, we look at companies that are looking for investments between 50K to 300K, post-revenue startups. And for Venture Capital Network, we're looking for companies that mid-level to late-stage SMEs are looking for, say, from $1 million to $500 million. That's the high level. That's private equity. And we have launched a new fund. So far, we have a commitment of $1.3 million from our investors with corporates, but specifically focusing on agriculture. So if you have an agri-tech startup idea, then we can talk. Yeah, and we represent actually about 22 private.
So I think all of us we need minds. Should probably talk.
Yeah, sure. The only problem I think we have is you can have two types of investors. So one investor is that we work with is an investor looking. You need to work hard to build a business, not an idea, if you need money from a rational investor. So a rational investor wants you to put your own skin in the game, at least for a while. So when you need to scale up, that's when they come in. So for tech, I know it's different. You can have a prototype, which is not necessarily revenue generating. So it comes on case by case, depending on the industry that you're in.
So investing into people, or investing into how much money they have already transacted?
No, it doesn't really matter how much money you have done, whether it's an investment or revenue. It doesn't really matter. What matters is how much have you invested in the idea that you want someone else to invest in it. Because before you tell someone with money to take a risk with your company, you need to take a risk yourself and show them that, you know what, it's worth, a risk-taking idea. So you don't expect someone to give you $100,000 where you cannot even put your, say, $1,000. So you can have all ways where you can raise that money, whether it's from your own savings, from family and friends. We all know the pre-seed sources of financing. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think we're playing a role part on this ecosystem, because most of the people, they need money, but maybe they don't know how to get it. While actually maybe the money is there, but maybe it's for you to educate them how they can get it.
Yeah.
So you have like a program?
Yeah, so the thing is, because we have two things in the ecosystem when it comes to investment and financing. So you have on the demand side where people need money, and the supply side where people give money. So we're on the supply side, and we want to be so much on the supply side. We want to break our heads to make sure that we have as much investments coming to this region as possible. And then you guys have to give us the formidable startups which are ready for investment, because we cannot do both. So our partnership comes in where labs, accelerators, incubators have to build these companies, and then we can come in when the companies are ready for investment. At the end, when they're incubated, because one of the problems we have, I think, across the continent is you have a lab, you have your cohort, people graduate from the cohort, and then what next? There's no funding that follows with them after they graduate. So that's where we want to come in. And for a program, for us to do is simply collaboration. So Smart Lab, you have the guys, startup, from the startup point of view, and that's when we can match the two.
Thank you very much. So my name is John Alfred. I'm a student from the University of Dar es Salaam pursuing Bachelor of Commerce and Finance. So actually I'm part of a startup called Leap Jobs, whereby we have leveraged the use of technology to solve the problem of unemployment. So what we do is like we post jobs, whereby in our portal where we post jobs, people get matched up with our algorithm, which is in automation forms, so that they can know the percent which they stand to get the job. We also, in our portal, we share different kind of competitions, scholarships, symposium trainings, so that students can get gathered in the ecosystem of learning and also participating in the likewise activities. So we're solving a major problem of unemployment in Tanzania, but also we are doing it in other sub-Saharan countries. Like we also share jobs from Sudan, also from Kenya, and we're trying to expand.
Thank you very much. So we also have someone who can introduce himself.
Hello, my name is Aaron. I have a company that's startup that's basically trying to help businesses find offices within Dar es Salaam much more efficiently. So basically, what we're trying to do is it's kind of what we call a multi-listing service. It's normally done in other countries, whereby instead of each real estate agency marketing itself as an individual, we basically try and bring them all together onto one platform, so that they're all in one place, and it's much more efficient for business to find, to know all the available options instead of having to guess which buildings are available. So basically, that's what we're trying to do. We basically have that platform, and then we create website for the properties. So we get a property website, which is something that a lot of properties don't have. So you can even see these big buildings that are coming up. So we try and create that for them, And we also have create 360-degree virtual tours of the building. That's another service that we offer. And create brochures for them. So it's basically it's a package that we help them to market themselves, and we also help market themselves. So there's a package that they use to market themselves to directly market themselves, and then we also help them through the platform.
So, I mean, you market them through the same platform?
Yes. So basically, it's like we sell them the package. So like, the first thing we do is, let's say there's a building that's just come up. It's an office building. So we say, okay, so we identify it as an office building. We capture it. And now we have like what's called the bare minimum information. Because at times, because this has not been available, a lot of the businesses are still shy in terms of sharing their information, okay, the vacancies within their building. And so what we're doing is we're saying, okay, at a bare minimum, at least, a person who says, okay, I'm looking for office space within Dar es Salaam, whether it's office or showroom space. Okay, so the bare minimum, you should at least have a directory of where all those potential buildings are. Normally, what you get, you drive by one place and then you see that one. Yeah. So what are all your options? So we try and do that. So we have that one as on the platform. But we also approach the businesses themselves to say, okay, you could market yourself much better than you're doing right now. So this is what we do for you. Okay, so create a website for you so that you can market yourself. But we also do it ourselves as a platform.
So it's a platform ready? It's like you can access.
Yes, it's still in the early stages. It's called Kalino, K-A-L-I-N-N-O. So yes, you can go online and you can kind of get an idea. We started by basically collecting all the major.
How do people pay?
The payment is for the services that we offer to the business themselves. Yeah.
So like you do no more invoice, no like online payments and things like that?
No. Right now, it's basically we're charging basically the businesses the properties themselves, whether it's the property or the property managers, because sometimes it's the property manager the one who's responsible rather than the actual property owner in terms of the marketing.
So when you have those properties, can you identify if someone like have like the full floor and then there is a part of the floor which they're not using that can be integrated with other people with co-use? We have another startup with Workness at which actually they're taking to another stage at which if you have like a big space and then you have like a remaining space, you can even still utilize that. Have you folks like working together? Or do you understand how the platform works?
Well, we have another one called Regus. I have heard of that.
I mean, because Regus, they own the whole space. The difference with them is they actually collect
all the different.
And do you see like there is an opportunity of working together?
Yeah, there is. The only thing is that for us, we're focusing on our co-working space is a red furnished office already. So let's say people like Legis, they come on, they take the whole building and they partition it, and they're selling the actual spaces which are already furnished. So that's where we're focusing in. So if you want a space, you can find a space which is already furnished, and you just go with maybe your laptop and you work from. So we're not dealing with the buildings. Like if you want maybe your own office space which you furnish it by yourself, we're not dealing with that. That's why even for people who want to share the office spaces, so it's your office, let's say smart code, and maybe you have extra desk or extra room which is already furnished, and maybe for instead of letting it be there without people who are using it, so you can invite people to come and use your office space. But always there's a room for...
Yeah, actually, that's the main thing, because if he has a database of those people who have those office ready, they've already rented from him, but he's trying to market so that they can fulfill some small space, that means it's easy to integrate. You're trying to look away in terms of how are we going to work together to do something better.
Yeah, that's very, very true. So
business
Hi, good evening, everyone. Inspire them to think about challenges in their community and come up with either social innovation or digital solutions to offer. That will bring in a business solution to offer, or a solution to tons of challenges that are currently in our communities. So we and accelerated to become real businesses, and then we send them to my brother there, who's going to give them money from angel investors.
Of course.
Yeah.
And then we actually have another investor there.
Great.
We have global money.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hello, everybody. Has been around for over 4 years now. We do provide grant funding and areas of education, health, and water sanitation. But we also kind of active in the innovation ecosystem by trying to inspire people to do stuff innovatively, come up with good new ideas, and kind of link them to providers of funding. But we also do kind of information like inspire with COSTECH, the Commission of Science and Technology. Yeah, so that's why I am. Thanks.
I mean, before you came here, most they're looking at the moment. They have great ideas. Of course, they want us to link them with the
Yeah, that's a question I always get whenever I get to the certain gathering, which is expected. Yeah. Well, I would say that it's unfortunate that but later we found ourselves kind of focusing on the guys who are already established, like mostly the biggest part of our portfolio is NGO. Of course, that kind of explains the reason why. There's a reason for that because of the sector we're working in. You don't find many private sector companies working in sanitation or health, for instance. So that's how we found ourselves in there. But over time, we have kind of evolved because it's an innovation fund. We have to make sure that this will link up with startups, with innovators. And that's why we have tried to do some initiative like Mawazo Challenge, where we kind of get people to submit their ideas, and then we can provide some seed funding initially, and hopefully they can actually grow and go places. We are looking into other ways of kind of reaching out to the individual innovators or small companies that are which can come up with ideas that will be able to support. But also in terms of creating platform where they can actually go and show up the ideas to people who would be able to be interested in. So that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, for us, Smart Code, we actually, maybe in summary, we started smaller because we have been into the ecosystem, and then we have seen the gap in terms of how are we going to make sure our next generation of brothers and sisters at which we can shorten their path. Maybe we have reached here for the past 5 years, but how can we make the future journey to be maybe 6 months or 1 year? The main thing is more of how to connect with the corporate. That's why we have invited a few corporate which are going to have some panel discussions so that you can ask them proper questions. And of course, people who have money, we call them investors. How are we going to link them? But also the network, because I think I was talking with Edgar and other 3 founders there. It's like everyone is working on his own space. So we want to do like every month at least, founders, we can meet and discuss our challenges, and we can try to see how are we going to share what we have so that we can build something together. So maybe we can have like, we can get ready to have, if you have any question about the corporates, we can all connect. That's the main thing. And we always say, like, when we go to this kind of meetups, try to talk with someone you know, because for the next maybe 1 hour or 30 minutes, you're talking with your friend which you actually meet maybe on Twitter, rather than talking. So we have some few drinks.
Tunachukua kwenye
Yaani wewe utaenda kwa sababu unaletea vita Mungu lakini yung kwenye hoja
hii nimekunywa kitu hapa.
Hamna nusu ya Apple. Inakuwa ina oda yake. Sema 57 chaji. Hiyo hapo ni kwani? Dapo. Era una cosa.
also all the investors. Hi, Mom. What would your
Hamna kama chukua hii
before we start the program. Thank you.
May I have your attention? Hello, at the back. Very grateful for all your support, Sheila. And Saloon. What? So right now you're standing at Smart Lab. It's a new innovation lab and accelerator. So we looked around and we found out that a lot of university students each year graduate with great solutions. But at the end of the day, they just graduate from university without anything else to do. So we decided to actually create, they can actually graduate with a startup. So the other part is that corporates, each and every year, they have corporate need. So at the end of the day, so that at the end of the day, we can create innovative solutions. So that's what SmartLab does. One of the things that it does, one of the programs is the founder-to-founder program. There's a great need for founders and startups and founders to actually air out their problems, so that at the end of the day, but at the end of the day, we create that are actually needed and efficient in the market. So on table before to get insights from university students. This is also a platform for us to actually come and speak before actually launching SmartLab. So that when we launch, we actually launch knowing that this is what startups need. This is what to all the corporate development agencies, investors. At the end of the day, we can have and create conversations.
So, maybe on our heart, it is maybe a quick discussion, but before that, we want to have. Here, 90% of the people we have are founders. They have co-founded. Maybe also what's needed on the law side, what's needed on the research and development side, what's needed if they want investment. So it's though it's a meetup for us founders to meet, but we'll be inviting different type of people so that we can learn the market need before we create those solutions.
Of the suit implement Breakthrough Attorneys. We are a corporate commercial law firm. We are Masaki. One of our of interest and business, including ideas, intellectual property, which I believe most of us, I guaranteed Edwin that I will not be billing for this time.
Hello everyone, my name is Paul Sheila. I think it's fair to say I'm an ex-founder. So I started my entrepreneurship journey in 2011 at DTBI with Edwin and Gilsand. And
the early incubation.
The early incubation. So we are the first intake of the DTBI in 2011 to 2000. Okay, some stayed for a year, some stayed for quite longer. And right now I work with NMB Bank and a Digital Lab unit, like I've mentioned before. But I want to clarify my opinion here, my own. And I'm not paying. So whatever I say here, stay there.
We have a lawyer.
Well, so now I work with NMB Bank and a Digital Lab unit, which is a new unit, and its goal is try to understand where we can find how we can build a model to work with fintech companies. So we are targeting specifically fintech companies. We're trying to open up the bank to third-party companies to see how we can leverage on getting customers, getting more deposits, and try to see how we can get that. So right now it's still on the early stages of setup, but we hope in a few years to come it will be something really good for the entrepreneurs.
So the reason we invited Paul is he has a long experience in terms of how to build a startup, and we have supported a lot of startups, even to integrate with telecom, but not saying it. So that means combining his knowledge, and if we're going to have some question, he can actually pretty much help.
All right. Thanks, Adrian. My name is Joseph Mandrakiza, once again. I'm the Deputy Team Leader for Human Development Innovation Fund. As I said before, it's a UK-aid innovation fund. We don't want to call it challenge fund because it's different. And we've been operating for the past 4 years, mainly supporting innovative projects in health, education, and WASH. But also on top of that, we engage ourselves in the innovation ecosystem development activities through COSTECH to support knowledge management, but also working with the innovation hubs and spaces.
to come up with any activity that can actually be able to spur the innovation ecosystem. So myself, I'm here to learn, not on behalf of the donor. I don't want to call myself a donor because I hate that word. Programming, so it can be able to support what is more relevant and to the Tanzanian.
Yeah, we want to start from it because we have like a long experience in terms of working with different startups, the ones which have succeeded, the others which have failed. So pretty much sometimes it's very important to learn from failure. Maybe they have given money someone and it failed. So now if you come and ask money for them, of course, they see like you're going to fail. So we don't want you to ask him money, but the guidance. Yeah? Though I know you want to ask for money, they don't have.
My name is Salum Awad, again, from SSK. For the past 8 years, our focus was mainly on corporate. But over the past 2 years, we decided to penetrate in May this year, we launched Tanzania Angel Investors Network. Some of you attended the launch. And the idea is to mobilize investments into startups looking for capital between $50,000 to $300,000. And we also launched Tanzania Venture Capital Network. So for those who graduate from startup level, need what we call follow-on financing. So if you need to scale up after starting up, we link you up to the VC space, which finance agri space. So for all, some of you will come $1 million. We have so far raised about 1.6.
Who have money, but your idea need to be legit. But from him, we can learn how to get that money.
Managers invest investors' money, and when you invest investors' money, you promise your investor to return his money plus certain number of return on investment, IRR, if it's 20-25%. So you can put that money in an idea, that kind of stuff. So it's the same language if you go across the continent. So it's not about ideas, it's about the business which you.
Because we have an email called idea, they actually at the end of the day put disclaimer saying like this idea is only meant for smart lab use. Don't share it anywhere. Yeah. So either if the startup idea is publicly, of course you need to market yourself, but the main challenge which we have is the fear of people to share the idea. Either we even have, we had like a roundtable discussion with the student from university. They say like when they come up with a certain idea, they actually fear to give out a crazy idea because if something is innovative, no one have ever heard about it before. So either friend, family, and even other investor, they will laugh about it, but for them they know it works. But since they know it works and they have some projection it's going to make money, so they also think like if they share with someone, it's going to steal it. So in terms of Tanzania perspective, how can someone protect the idea or their project when you want to pitch to someone? Because sometimes if you go to pitch to the investor, that means I give you even my projection, how I'm going to do things, all the paperwork. And then at the end of the day, let's say it's a challenge for 100 people, and then only one is going to win. Then 99 people, if someone going to use it, how am I going to make sure I'm protecting it?
Okay, thank you, Adrian. Basically, when it comes to these kind of things, we simply call them intellectual property. When you have an idea, this is an intellectual property because it's a product of your intellect, it's your mind. You imagined it, you developed it, and at some levels you might even have perhaps constructed some sort of a design. It covers a long range of things. But in terms of protection, basically, the simplest and the most secure way is to register intellectual property rights. Now, this differs from one kind of an idea, one kind of a right or a product to another. So for ideas, mostly are protected under copyright. So copyright works for those ideas that you just have. I have an idea, I'll develop this, I'll do this, I'll do this. I would suggest that when you have one, you see your lawyer or whatever you have, somebody with legal knowledge, or you can go to societies. For example, COSOTA. You can see me too. I'm very affordable. Someone say, don't say cheap, say affordable. I'm very affordable. So you can even see me, but the idea is you can even go see COSOTA, the Copyright Society of Tanzania. They're very friendly and they're very affordable as well. There are things which cannot be copyrighted, for example. The normal way of doing things. For example, if you want to protect that, I want to sell through internet. They will say no. Everybody wants to sell through the internet. Why should we give you the copyright on doing things? The only thing is how you design it. You see, so there are things that you need to do, but the idea as an idea is protected by law. So when you have an idea, the first thing you can do is to see whether you can get a copyright, and it's quick and it's doable. Now, when you come to a person like the guys with the money, and they have the money, they have the workforce, and the workforce itself is structured. You have the owner of the company, you have the board of directors, you have the officers. Perhaps the board of directors will say, yes, we are bound by this. But someone else will get wind of the idea and say, sell it to another guy. So the first way, the safest way is to you to have that intellectual property right attached to your idea. And you slap it in the first moment. This idea is copyrighted. You see? That will deter them. But sometimes it depends with the agency, it depends with the amount of money you have, and the idea is not protected. Then you come to the second level of protection, which is basically a simple NDA. Some people would know it, like an agreement that this is my idea and I am giving it to you, trusting that we are trying to create something, but you will not disclose this to any person. You and whoever falls under you, worker, assigned, transferee, agent, whatever, they cannot use this idea. So a non-disclosure agreement. The challenge with a non-disclosure agreement is that sometimes you may say that and they'll still say, I have the same idea. Sometimes someone will say that before, because you may still say that. That's why the safest way to go is to make sure when you have an idea, you register it. So that is for copyright, but for those people with programs and stuff, when you have your program, you have, I don't know, you call codes. When you have your codes, your designs, whatever, just strive to have them registered. That's the easiest. But if you can't, ensure that you work with your NDA with the empty slot of the guy who receives it. So even you meet me on the road, you say, oh, just sign your name here and here, and then I'm giving you my idea.
All right. And this one, any question? But do we really actually register our ideas?
Hello, yeah. Since I was looking on several ways of protecting my ideas, so I found out there is I can say it's a crude way of protecting your idea. I read it somewhere. I haven't applied it yet. They say if you think you have really unique idea, and there is so many people who will come and say, yeah, I think I've heard about it, or I have similar idea or some stuff like that. They say you actually put it in envelope and go to post office and mail it to yourself before you go and pitch it somewhere else. So if you go and pitch it somewhere else, someone will say, yeah, I think I have a similar idea or something like that, or someone implement the idea after you have pitched it to them. So you have that evidence, like you have a letter which has emailed to you, like maybe a month ago or a week ago. So you can go to anywhere, maybe come to you and show them, like, yeah, you see, this is my idea. I have emailed to myself, and there's a postal stamp and everything. So yeah, you can try that.
Well,
Well, for me, it's very ingenious and very creative. It will work. Basically, it will work. However, it will need some extra effort for it to work. Like what? Luckily, I'm also a litigation lawyer. So
what does that mean?
litigation, court law.
So like going to court?
Yes, that's my background. I had 7 years of litigation. I worked with a firm called Marando, Mnyele & Kaplan Advocate for 7 years before founding Breakthrough Attorneys. Okay. And now I call myself corporate lawyer. Even for lawyers, yes. Okay, now for this idea will very much work. And how will it work? If you do that, I want you to complement it with the evidence of such meeting between you and the other guy. Because at the end of the day, if you don't, and they'll say, but me and you never met, for example. You understand? So you may wish to have record of such meeting, for example, an email, say, come we talk about an idea. That you send yourself will predate this meeting. You understand? It will work, but you need now to peg it next to actual proof that you actually had a meeting that you might have discussed this or that. As simple as that. But it's a very good idea, and I'm going to advise my client.
But also they say, like, if you think your idea is unique, try to Google it. You'll see how many. Yes.
I just want to add on the issue of IP and copyright. What I've learned by working with investors is there are two things. One, when you initiate the investment process, the fundraising process, the first thing that you do is you have to share your idea. And at this stage, nobody signs an NDA. So you must bring up an idea which is protected. And as you say, the ratio is almost 100 to 1. 100 ideas coming up, or companies, only one company will be funded every day. So as 99 companies won't be funded. So if you fear that if they put in a dustbin, someone might go and pick that up. And so my work is to try to bring in was, if you look at statistics, over the past 5 years, $2.4 billion was invested in East Africa, and Tanzania got less than 20% of all that money. Kenya took about 65% of all that money. So it's, what are we going to do to bring this money into the country? Most of the ideas in other countries outside Tanzania have IP. If in that space, if it's innovation, it's software, if it's codes, to use your word. So if you have an IP in your idea, not only does it protect you, it also gives you a mileage in the capital raising. Because investors also want to invest in a company whose idea is protected anyway, because at the end of the day, they'll be part of that company. So you think of an IP not just as a way to protect your idea, but as a leverage for you with capital raising.
I just want to... Okay, so just a question before I give out my comment. You say we can protect the idea, but I'm having trouble to understand how possible it is. So what goes into protecting the idea? Because my understanding is for getting an IP or a patent, you need to have some sort of processes defined, or a product that you can quantify. So let's say you have an idea of starting a smart lab. How am I going to put it in, protect it? Because we tried to do this before and it was super crazy, to get the idea protected. So now you're telling me that this is possible. I'm kind of confused. So yeah, I just want to understand.
Okay. In order to understand intellectual property rights, you need to know the classes that they're involved, and there are different classes. The first one, the simplest and that's most talked about, is the copyright. Now, copyright is the idea, but ideas which are protected are original works. original works. Now we come to the quote that Edwin used, that try to Google it. You see, that's the first thing. It's really new. You understand? Now, the second thing I told you is that you cannot protect things which explain a manner of doing things, which are simple stuff of life. I'm trying to remember, I had a client, cement company, tried to say, want to sell cement using M-Pesa or something. And then he said, no, you can't protect that. It's just a way of selling something through, you understand? So your idea need to really be new in the sense of how to do something, or the way you are going to structure it up. And some of these ideas will definitely propel into another intellectual property right, which might be a patent. You see, so the concept of protection is into novelty of the idea. You understand? And then whether this thing is capable of being sold as an independent idea rather than a public way of doing things. That is the test. So when you set your idea there, they will put it to these tests. To these tests. And then apart from it, then you have the other usual intellectual property rights, such as patent. Most of you know this is design. Then you have trademarks. Branding guys know that. And then you have something most people have not even heard, something called appellate of origins. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Okay, I want to say something about this. Appellate of origins, these are intellectual property rights which are not based on a person but based on a region. For example, wines of South Africa. That mark on a wine gives a sale value to wines. When someone says, I need a wines of South Africa, wine from whatever valley, vineyards, whatever, France, that sells. Other people from the Asian continent have registered rights on pepper. So someone here could start and register Chips Mayai. I joke this every day. That Kenyans, 2 days, 3 days, they're very active. They say Chips Mayai, Kenyan product. You understand? So these are the things. We are looking at ways that we can protect. So the intellectual property rights are so many, but it always covers.
Yeah. Maybe this thing of we want to discuss something.
People who bring the application, there are those who insist on NDAs because whoever is do not want to put money behind NDA, let's sign it and then let's share the information. So because you could share a good idea and to be safe on your side to kind of do something about it. But so far, because of the bulk of it that we've been dealing with mostly NGOs or some established companies, some of them do not mind a lot with their ideas being known, because at the end of the day they want people to know what they are doing. And for us, if you protect it, fine, if you're in business, but if you're an NGO, it gets to be shared around. In our case, we want people to know what works and they want it to work. So if somebody's going to replicate it and help more people, well and good. So it's because we are not profit-oriented, we are not very much concerned about people replicating other people's innovations.
So I just want to give a comment as an entrepreneur who
experienced it.
I was experienced and tried it. So my advice for people trying, to register, okay, this is advice coming from a lawyer, which is well and good, but I think the best way to protect your idea is just to go out and try to do it.
Awesome.
Do it. Because 100 times, million times, your idea won't be unique.
Amen.
It won't.
That's why I say Google it.
Yeah, just Google
because
it.
actually, at the time which you are trying to build your idea,
You're trying to Google so that you can collect
You
some
can
other.
package it. So instead of, I mean, if you have money, you can spend money to this guy. But I think the best way to is just to get out and try to do it. Try to get paying customers. See if people are going to actually buy your idea or not. People are going to buy your product, and then move to the next step. I mean, if Lillian tried to protect, should be struggling protecting ice cream with the ice cream patent running around, but she went out, do it, and
sell to customers
and get paying customers. So I think that's my entrepreneur advice for people coming up with ideas and trying to get stuff done.
Hey, how can you balance that comment?
It's good because first of all, it's tough to actually get, because first of all, I have to remind people that Tanzanians are scared of papers. When you throw around an agreement, they're scared. Yes, it's scary. People are scared of papers, and you may agree something with someone and you say, okay, let us put it in writing, and be like, you see? So it's that feeling. So, well, if you can, and you can raise the money, because sometimes the question is the fund. If you can, it's okay. However, I will give you just a little caution. Sometimes, some of the things that you can do may be infringing another person's right. You understand? It's more like, say, I want to create a sneaker line called D-Book. We all know that we're talking about Reebok, right? So possibly you couldn't have registered D-Book, but because it was, this looks like Reebok somehow. You understand? But if you could have money and open the factory, and then the moment you open, you are slapped with a gag order there, infringement of trademark. This is passing off. You're trying to tell people that D-Book is the same product as Reebok. So I agree, you can do this, but you have to be very careful with whether whatever product, whatever idea might have been protected by someone else, and you might be looked at doing something. It's an infringement claim called passing off. I'm actually filing one tomorrow.
There is a field, especially now that we have the university people, because we do know, like in the United States and other developed countries, universities do just research, and what they do is that they patent that research and then sell it off to a company that actually goes out and implements it. And I think that that should be something that we should also be looking at, and also advising the students that sometimes you don't have to actually go out there and actually implement it, as long as you can actually go out and frame the whole idea properly for somebody else to go and implement, and that should be able to financially.
Very true.
I have an example on that. We have a client, big cigarette companies. Intellectual property rights are country-wise. They vary from country to country. Most people usually used to protect them in the jurisdictions they were intending to go, and later on realized that, oh, we want to go to Madagascar now, and we never protected them. So it's a big thing. I have a client, they're a big tobacco manufacturing company. Then they come here, and they found that all their products have been trademarked by the rival company. Every cigarette that they are producing is now here in Tanzania, owned by them. They started buying one by one over $1 million. You see? So owning the right itself is an investment. And as Salim said, you can actually see that as a cumbersome procedure, but in itself, it sells you. I hear of a certain guy in Kenya who patented, I believe, registered IBM and stuff, and IBM had to buy him big time. And he said, okay, you're buying the name, but you're also giving me shares. Yeah, so for you inventors and people with innovative ideas, sometimes you can just invent the idea and put it there, and people will come and they will get it.
So I just wanted to add, not even it's a comment because he mentioned of what I do is ice cream.
Yes.
It happened to me that in the process, as an entrepreneur, you share your idea. In a moment of a bubble, I did share, I overshared, and the person I was sharing with got it and went on an open business. And still till today, people not confuse me, I don't know, but they know of me, but the person who I shared the idea with is out there doing it bigger than me. So I still suffer the consequences of that moment of not knowing I have to protect my idea and stuff like that. But in the process, he almost took the name, the Nello's name, and took the whole word Nello's Gelato. And in the process of arguing, I happened to call a lawyer right there, and he said, no, we're going to file a copyright. By tomorrow, he cannot do anything. So that was quick, and then he figured I cannot take over the name. Then at least I was protected, so the brand name is protected. But when it comes to making ice cream, you can protect it. But the brand, you can protect it. So I think it depends on the type of business, you have to protect your brand. But when it comes to areas, I'm going to come to you, because Nello's has to be in Africa, so you gotta protect that. Because someone in Kenya has brought my website already, and is telling me to pay for nellosgelato.com. I'm like...
Actually, that's another startup business.
Yes.
To buy and sell domains.
Yes.
So that means we have another startup business for buying the protection and come and sell back to you. Just like.
But then there's nothing they can do with that, right?
There's nothing.
Yeah, I think they just put it as investment. But you know, in Tanzania, if I want Newa.com, it's not there. I just add newatz.com.
All the way,
yeah. But I think another thing which I want to hear from Paul as on the corporate side. So people, they have ideas, but they're looking for partners. But now let's say they want to come and connect with a bank, for example. But other people, of course, they're feared if they come to the bank and pitch for it, and then you know your idea is good, maybe the project manager, they have accepted it, but then again we come into what they call in corporate procurement process. That is to say, they like my proposal, but now they're going to file for a tender for my own proposal. And then pretty much the chance of getting it. How do you think?
Very good question, because part of what they do is to meet up with startup companies, not specific startup companies, but even established companies that want to work with the bank. So they come in, they pitch their products, we have a discussion, we see how we can fit them into our core business, to our core banking system. And so what I see, okay, so there is a procurement process, but...
So what if you're expensive? Because procurement, they're looking at the numbers.
Yes, so that's what I wanted to explain a bit. So so I'm gonna say this, if your company is new and you don't have really, good numbers, to show to the bank, because we're not trying to be evil or anything, but we want to make money. We are there to return investors money. So we are more focused on, okay, this is a proven business. It's like how the investors say, like, this is a proven business. If we take it in, it will generate more money to the bank, possibly, reduce our cost on few areas of doing business. So, but if you have less an idea, and I'm gonna be very honest, and again, this is my personal opinion, it is really tough because we have to sit in, try to understand your idea, and trust me, there are a lot of so many things that we have to do, and again, we have to sit down and try to refine your idea. So our wish is like, you come in, like, guys, I have 100 million in recurring revenue. Not necessarily 100 million, it could be 20 million, it could be 10 million, but how these, numbers I'm generating, I'm projected to do, 2 times next year, 3 times next year. And I think this could add 1, 2, 3, 4, value to the bank. How can I work with you? And our model is our revenue sharing. You just charge your customer whatever you want to charge, bring us the deposits. We're happy to give you the channels to make the payments, to co-brand with you, to do all other this social engagement with you. But you figure out your business model. Just come to us, as an extension to you to maybe tap our database of customers or leverage on our big marketing budgets. But again, for the procurement part, yes, there are some cases where companies come in and we feel like there could be some companies outside doing something better. So we might try to do that. But if you have a unique product or a really good product that you are the only person doing it, and you can convince the people you're talking to, like, this is gonna work. We could do like what we call the single sourcing. So we could do like the formal, but again it will be just you being selected. That's just the procedure, but it really doesn't have to go outside to source for other companies if your product or your services it's only provided by you.
So first, you look in terms of the competition.
Yes.
You also see like if even the procurement people, when they want you to, because you say like you need to register on the procurement system, and I can tell even like maybe 2 documents, most important document they might want, maybe 2 years or 1 year back in terms of your returns, yeah, and also to submit even one single certificate, rather let's say the VAT certificate.
So the key documents are always like, if you have audited the financial statements, that's key. You have all the documents already, like, business license, all the registration in place, because you have to be you have to comply with the,
exactly.
regulatory.
But now we are saying these are startups, yeah, and then to get a VAT VRA certificate, that means you need at least to have a revenue of, I think, 40 or 100 million in a year. But I'm just starting. It's just when I integrate with you, it's when maybe I can project to get that money. How will the corporate help?
Okay, so for that part, it depends with the company to come. So for instance, I give you my experience. We got the contract with Vodacom. We explain like, okay, we're a startup. So if anybody knows, we had a product called Perusi. So when we pitched the concept, and again, so this was, I want to explain, this was like one of the unique scenarios, because we went with the concept and then we developed the prototype and then we put it to work. So we didn't have all legal documents in place. But what we did is we got a letter from like a partnership, letter from Vodacom, and we used it to TRA to get the VAT.
They can provide.
Yeah, so it depends with the company you're working with, but most companies, if they want to onboard you, they'll be happy to give you, either a recommendation or a letter to take you to whatever authority to get your approvals.
All right. Any question from the corporate side?
And before I want to add on that, the relationship between corporates and startups.
Yes.
So from the venture capital industry now globally, there's this thing called corporate venture capital, CVC, where a corporate company sets up a venture capital unit within the company to support startups as an investor for strategic alignment. So you see all the major companies, Fortune 500 companies in the US, more than a quarter of these companies have VC within the companies. Actually, Uber, in second round of fundraising, got the money from the VC unit of Google, called Google Capital. So all these major corporate companies go into that space. So instead of NMB, investing in the technology and resources, to acquire more agents for agent banking countrywide, they can invest in a company which already has that network. For strategic alignment, but at the same time as an investor, you also get your financial returns. Actually, that's the reason why we set up the fund. So our East Africa Agro Fund is purely a corporate venture capital fund. And the investors into the fund are actually agro companies that are looking for agro startups to invest in for strategic alignment. I'll give you a simple case that we are working on. A fertilizer company imports fertilizer and distributes across the country. So they need to have a huge distribution network, farmers, farmer groups, cooperatives and all that. So instead of this company going across the country and recruit all this distribution network, they can invest in a company which already has the network, which already knows these farmers, has the database of, say, 2-3 million farmers across the country. So they invest in this company to access the network to distribute fertilizer, but at the same time, they can, taking up 10, 15, 20% of the company as shareholders to support it to grow and for them to keep on growing the distribution of the fertilizer. So the same thing could be done by NMB. 2 years ago, actually, we brought up this idea to Tanzania. We met corporates. We wanted to support corporates to set up the VC unit, and we could manage on their behalf, and nobody listened. So we decided to set up our own fund and ask them now bring the fund, we'll invest on your behalf. That's what we're doing.
Fantastic. So it's like a business play. You need to know how to connect. You said you want?
Hi, my name is Juliana Mataba. I'm the CEO of Good Food Africa. I would like just to add up on that. It's not necessarily when you are a registered company, you should be limited, company or limited by liability. You can even start as a sole proprietor. So I started business as a sole proprietor before I registered it as a limited, and I could work with so many organizations, so many companies, and they accepted me. So I didn't even have VAT because maybe when I started, I had no actually that amount to be regarded as a big customer, VAT, general customer, something like that, taxpayer. So I advise everybody to start small. Yeah.
Okay, so I happened to pitch an idea to a certain organization, requesting fund from them, and later we realized that the guy we were talking to wanted that idea. And so he told us, like, you should do this way, and after we say we can't do it that way, then he said, we can't fund you. After 2 days, someone told us that the guy had gone to pitch to the ministry the same idea. But luckily, in short time, we managed to copyright the idea, and then we started working, like, we started talking to another institution to partner with so we can push the idea forward. But to them, then they said that later, they had the problem, but they didn't know the solution, and we brought them the solution and wanting to partner with them. But later they said, we can't work with you because you are a starting company, you don't have the requirements, and so we'll put up a tender and then people compete to get it. Now, they got a company from Ghana doing almost the same thing but not the same thing. And till now the company is struggling and they don't want to work with us. So in that case, maybe if you can shed some light.
Your name?
Okay, so I'm Paul Mandela, I work for Buni, so that was a personal project.
Incubating other people while incubating yourself.
I understand. Most, I believe, my fellows here would have more sway in this in regards to they're usually on the other side of the fence. Most big investors, established people, like to work with bodies which are regulated and which have been established under the law. And like my sister there said, even sole proprietorship sometimes is enough for some set of companies. I remember when we were opening up our law firm, by the way, most law firms just knew about VAT compliance. Maybe this year, after a crackdown, by the government. Most lawyers did not have VAT, so I believe most people, if you used to pay lawyers, you never used to see the 18%. But for us, it was on the word go. And the reason was, and our team was like, we have to have this. And I was like, this guy is complicating everything. What's wrong with him? And then the first client we're getting is a big multinational company saying, to put you under our vendor system, you must be VRM, VAT registered. And then we said, okay, so we have this service level agreement, and the client to put us on a vendor system, we need to be VAT registered. We know we do not have any else. So can we be registered? So these things are based on discretion. And most of the time we can just go an extra step and get these things. So I suggest you get registered, because at the end of the day, it's easier to deal with most people, because everybody wants to deal with a company. For example, you go there, you and your wife, you and your best friend, not registered. And people, when they look at it, they're not really okay. From the bank's perspective, you're sort of a liability. What if you fight? You see? What we attach? Company debentures, charges, these are security documents they can put against whatever they're giving collateral. So it's easier when you are a body corporate. That's just it. And it's safer for you, everything, and it's regulated. That's my opinion.
Maybe just to address one issue that probably Harry didn't touch on, what Paul raised. I've met like two young men who had similar complaints. One was developing a system, ticketing system, and he had the prospect of getting that as a client. He went and pitched, and later on he was told that the tender was taken up by somebody who is related to the company owner. So it's the directors. So it happens, and unfortunately, I think in today we have a problem of supporting innovators, especially the individuals. That's the second charge about the formalities that startups cannot comply with. Whether they like it or not, they are just starting, they still have ideas, they have potential, but they cannot meet the requirement that the corporates need. So how can they be supported? I think that's why there should be some sort of like incentive mechanism, I can't call that way, because for instance, in a country like Kenya right now, when they have a mandate of supporting youth-based businesses, there are some of the requirements they kind of waive. Right? So that's something that probably we could think about. But also, even in the donor community, people are now thinking about how can you support the pre-product ideas kind of innovation. Because if you have a potential, but you cannot go sell, so you can't go to Salim and sell and pitch for funding, because for them they support like from 50,000 if they do. But you are not at the point where you can actually demonstrate you can make revenue. Maybe you need another 2 years to come to be able to prove that. So who support at that level? So that's something I think that people need to think about, how to support that kind of new ideas that are coming up, and probably thinking about the complexities that put the startups out of business.
Just a quick question directly to you. As an ecosystem builder and a supporter, you're actually out of the fence supporting and see a lot of things running. So you can see there is startup we want to connect with corporate. Of course, corporate, they want also to come to lawyer to protect the idea. At the same time, you want to boost them so that they can go into the investors. So what kind of a gap do you see we have actually in Tanzania, at which right now the startup and founders, so that we can concentrate and we can make sure we're not making mistakes in the future?
Yeah, well, I tend to disagree with people who say that lack of access to financing is not a big problem, because I've heard about that so many times that people say, no, it's just ideas that are lacking, but finance is there. I tend to disagree. There could be money out there, but probably people with ideas do not fit into what the providers of the money are looking for. From the donor perspective, I don't like that word, but yes, you find, for instance, you have HDA for set up for a particular purpose. I've already decided right of the fund that, okay, I'm going to support ideas in health, education, and WASH. But you look around in the startup community who has got ideas in sanitation, for instance, which can start small, be supported, and actually develop into a viable business over time. Very few. But for the provider of the money, like, I just need ideas into this area. So what you end up funding is just NGOs which have been in that area for long and have got all the paperwork, they have got the experience, they have got, you know, financial statement to show, which you are not going to get from a startup or somebody who's coming up with an idea. So there are that one. Second is this think of if I'm using somebody else's money, like the fund managers, or for instance, I don't want to put the money to risk. But we all agree that if you're funding innovation, definitely you are going to lose a lot of money, whether you like it or not. True. So who is willing to lose that money? Well, in our case for HDF, we take up that risk. We have lost quite a lot, but just because probably the donor is also willing to lose that money, although you not always that you cannot tell them, or from the ones that I'm going to support this, that 60% of chances this one is going to get lost. You cannot do that. Yeah. So there is the, I mean, of course, even the, I think the ideas that are coming up and the fact that people probably are not willing to take the first step, just as someone said that if you have an idea, just go out and do it. Because when you have started doing it, at least you have a chance of convincing somebody to look at it differently, rather than coming to me with just a proposal on a paper and just an idea which it has nothing to show. So I think if people can take that first step, and then you go to a prospective investor or prospective funder that I have something, this is what I need to get to the next step. So that one is still missing right now. There are a few ideas out there, but not as many. So if we can get to that stage, we have actually so many ideas we have got, at least when a prototype that can be tangible to show, I think we can go somewhere.
Okay. But I think also on we actually got a lot of questions from the social media. So people are asking, they don't see a lot of investments coming to Tanzania. Yeah, and we don't see maybe a lot of startup. So is it like maybe in Tanzania we have a lot of startup, few investors, or we have a lot of investors, few startup? Which one is which? And how are we going forward to make sure, because our aim also is to make sure we are now the investors ready. What actual kind of things need to take us there?
Actually, sorry, but I don't think access to finance is a problem. I think there's a, you know, if you look at the history, it depends on where we start from. If you look at other countries where they receive a lot of investments, it's because they already come from a background where the ecosystem is built up already for startups that are ready for investments. So if you ask me, you know, numbers don't lie. If you look at the space of venture capital in East Africa, there's this thing we call dry powder. Dry powder is the amount of money which has been raised to be invested, but it does not find the companies to invest in. And there's $1.2 billion of dry powder in East Africa. So there's, to me, access to finance is not a problem. The problem is, the challenge rather, is to find a way where we can build up these companies to be investor ready.
Yes.
And the companies to understand which source of finance is suitable for one level of a company. We know if you go to a bank, there's a mismatch. Someone takes money from a bank to finance working capital using long-term loan, which is crazy. Or taking long-term loan to finance working capital. So there's always a mismatch for that. If someone has an idea and they want to pitch to get the money, you cannot go to a VC for that. There's a mismatch already. So we need to build up platforms that will finance startups, ideas, before they're revenue generating companies. That's why we have crowdfunding now. So coming back to you, Edwin. So those are things we need to do. We need to build crowdfunding platforms, because crowdfunding would finance pure idea. You don't need to have revenue in that case. We know other sources, you know, family and friends, as the way, it speaks for itself. Maybe we need to change the culture.
Someone said, you know, Sam, we talk about 4 million frames to support companies, but is it really in this country, or is a foreign culture? But we still have issues here because we have a culture of using a lot of money to finance non-productive activities, which we could redirect to companies. You see, I was talking to one business owner when we were doing the networking. The reason why we started Tanzania Angel Investors Network is because we were getting inquiries as a company, at a company level, that Salum might have $50,000 paid bonus to Stanbic Bank, for example. But I want to invest this money. So if you go to the social media, everybody's crazy about, you know what, you want to make more money, you know, go and grow a watermelon in 3 months, you know, 5 million is 25 million. We say, you know, maybe we need to build a platform where we can have all these savings and allocate them to ideas and these companies through a network. So that's what we're trying to do. If you, I don't know if the number is correct, but I was told that Vikoba in a country, the total assets of all Vikoba in a country is in excess of 1 trillion. That's what I'm telling you. That's what I heard. It's in excess of 1 trillion. So how are we using this kind of savings?
By the way, they've not said the actual statistics for the police before, but which is even the biggest.
You see? So there's a lot of money. Many people I know organize themselves. They have WhatsApp groups. They do all these monthly contributions, 50K, 100K. Maybe they have 300-400 million, and they don't know where to invest this money. So we can allocate all this money into startups as well. So that's what we're trying to do. That's why the Tanzania Angel Investors Network is different from other to invest in startups as well. So there are many ways where we can work out and see how we can allocate this money into ideas and startups.
When is the right time to, first of all, someone else?
Thank you again. I would like to add up on Salum. I think, I'll write it here before I forget. Why do actually maybe Kenyans gain a lot of, I think, privilege on startups and money goes there a lot is more than Tanzania. First thing is awareness. Not many Tanzanians are aware of the grants, the money which is available on their internet, and all these donors who are providing that capital and the knowledge. The idea of the startups into Tanzania, I think, is new. So not many youth, not many people knows about it. And is it requirements? Sometimes you find the requirements actually are not difficult, but maybe we cannot fulfill them. And also the ability to apply. We are Tanzanians, we are talking Kiswahili, and we write Kiswahili, and actually the language ambayo unatakiwa utumie ni Kiingereza. And hakuna watu wengi ambao they actually wamejitangaza this project writing and all that. And the confidence to apply ni kitu kingine. You find a lot of people, we see these links and we see these adverts, but tunasoma, then we say, oh my God, they need a lot to write. You know, that's a lot. People ambao tunakuwa tunashindwa. Ni that ile, we cannot write, we cannot express ourselves. Kwa hiyo nadhani hii ni kitu ambacho wenzetu wa Kenya, Waganda, Ghana, Nigerians wanatushinda. Thank you.
But the time is now. We are ready.
Sorry, before you continue, I'm the owner of Mark II T437 and Subaru T670 DLP. Please, number mwende mkasogeze magari, kuna mtu anataka kutoka. Thank you.
Just shortly on what that is added, the problem for me on a perspective arising after the money has been given now, and there's this part that there is no awareness. I would also like to add the aspect of discipline. We are very quick to say we have made it. Yeah. We are very quick to say we have made it. You get an equity loan of $200. $100 goes to a new Range Rover. Yeah, I'm saying this because after they've given the money, most of the time, we are called to see what do we do. There is a company here, a venture capital company, it's a Fortune 500, so Salim will know it, Ian Co. Well, you know what happened? They're moving, they went to Kenya. It's not just because they were not giving money, they were giving money. But the discipline on how startups actually react after being given the money chased these people away. And the more we conduct our businesses, the more we conduct our trade, we'll chase more and more funding towards rival countries. Kenyans, apart from being ahead in terms of readiness, their awareness, but the discipline as well is there. You give him 200, he'll create 400, return to you to your 200, and then starts to enjoy the 200 that he made. For us, the 200 you get in the first week, you start spending it. That's the problem. They are ahead. There's a day I tweeted, there's a day, I'm such an inquisitive person. There's a day we were doing an interview for associates were coming in, and this one is going to Kenya. And then I was just reading the certificates, and then I saw secondary school certificates, there's business studies. I said, what? Business studies? I went into their website and started searching the curriculum for Kenya. I found out that they're doing business studies from Form 1. Opening an office, trade, location, packaging, everything from Form 1. So they're ahead. Now, for us who are catching up, and then we learn the discipline. So while the money is there, we ourselves, as a nation, as people, as individuals, people used to go alone so as to sell their houses. They're not taking the loan. I'm taking a loan so that my house, which I could not get 100 million, so that I can get 100 million out of it in the default, so that the bank will come and sell the house. So these kind of things sort of scare investors away. That's just food for thought.
Can I just ask you, do you think this is unique to Tanzania, or is it prevalent in most places where people don't have enough discipline, they don't have knowledge of personal finance?
Everywhere there are conmen, but conmen, we are not supposed to be that conning, you understand? Because at the end of the day, I tamed the chance that Paul has because of what I did. More and more. They give money, so how quick can you get back your money? Resolution? Because money goes where it can recover. Because I can't take my money here if I can recover after something happens. All arbitration hubs easy now, but we are behind in terms of how they can get it back. So, trying to say, and you as business people, the idea holders, you really need to justify you getting the money and afterwards doing what you actually promised. The contracts, the agreements, everything.
Okay, so I want to add with what Salom said. I very much agree that there's a lot of money around, but it's very difficult for many companies to access. So prior to my current job, I used to work for a big international challenge fund. And one of my jobs was to go and do due diligence for a company which had applied for funding and had very good business plans, some of them very innovative. And you could see that possibly money will come through for these businesses. But the challenge was when you go there for due diligence, it was shocking. And actually I was ashamed because people were telling me like, oh, you guys, you have problems because it's only the international companies that are getting money. But if you go to these international companies, they have everything in paper, every single cent that they've spent. Even if they've spent 2,000 for mihogo and chai, they have that receipt. Even if that vendor does not have receipt, they have a paper written that I bought mihogo and chai for 2,000 from this woman, and that thing is filed. Now you go to local businesses and they don't have that. Somebody will sell, say, 1,000 pineapples for 1,000 shillings. They'll keep that money in the pocket. They'll go to Breakpoint, have a meal, pay for it. They don't take receipt. They go home. And that's the big challenge. So when investors want to invest money in your business, they want to make sure that the money will be used for the sole purpose of running the business. And if you don't have records in place, they'll say, you know what, you have a very good business idea, but it's very risky to invest in you because we cannot keep track of your expenditure, etc. So even if you're starting a small company, even if you're buying a voucher, put it in place and then pay yourself salary. Don't depend on sales for you to pay, for say meals and salaries. Everything written, and then you have all this paperwork in place, so that once somebody comes for due diligence, they'll find all this paperwork and they'll have trust in your business.
Yeah. So I think to add on that, I think we're on the right course as a country because most of the things we look at are is historical. And we are trying to break the cycle. And I'm delighted to see a lot of initiatives in the market. So we have, I don't know how many labs, incubators, and accelerators we have as of now in the country. But these are key to build up companies which are investable, because that's what the investors want. So the investor doesn't want to bring you to a level where you're investable. Someone needs to do that job to bring you to that level for them to invest in you. And that's what the labs and accelerators do. And we can measure based on that how many companies graduated from all these labs and how many were able to access funds, and then over time you can see the analytics in that space. But on top of that, what you were saying, the due diligence, I think it's the readiness, and I think it's a question of knowledge and education that we need to still doing as a country, and everybody's in their space. Because the ecosystem is more than an investor and a startup, the startup incubator. So we need to have policymakers as well. There are a lot of things that have to do with policy. I don't want to complain on policy, but we have to say something about that at the end of the day. But the most important thing to me is each player does his part. So I say my part is bringing in money to Tanzania as much as I can. So if I can sign up a VC from Hong Kong that's looking for companies in Tanzania, I'll do that job. But I won't do the job to source startups to bring that up. I want someone else to do that. I want Jumanne to do that. I want Edwin to do that. You bring these companies. The bigger the pipeline we have, the more investments can come in. And we do the education part. So Tanzania Venture Capital Network, we have a program. So this year, we did a training workshop in Arusha, actually. So we work with NMB. NMB actually sponsored the event, and they brought in their corporate customers, and we taught them about VC and how it works. So majority of companies in Tanzania are family-owned, and we all know family owners don't want to, shed off the shares. They want to keep the perpetuity of ownership within the family circles. So you want to try to train them about how this thing works, because short of that, nobody will show up. This year, I invited a VC from Kenya, VC firm from Kenya, to do a small talk called Meet the VC. I invited corporates, more than 25, and only 3 showed up. Only 3. So you can see it's the readiness from the companies as well, but they need to be educated. This year alone, we have signed up 260 companies looking for capital. We have only raised for 2 companies. And as we speak now, we only have 26 companies. So we're talking about 10% of the companies we signed up in January are still in the pipeline just for simple due diligence. Some are falling out, no accounts, no, all this kind of stuff. So it's not necessarily on the investors who say access to finance is not a problem. It's much more on building companies which are investor ready.
Yep.
I just want to add a small thing. Again, I'm speaking as a founder, because this issue of access to capital, it's one of the hot areas, when it comes to startups. And I think this is just a challenge for the founders out there. I want us to look at the access of capital in a different angle, because first we have to agree ecosystem here to hike in place, for VC. Like, we don't have a formal VC arrangement like what they have in other countries. So for us as founders, we have to look this in a very different angle. So I think it's easy for us to complain, to say there's no access to capital. But have you really tried to raise money in non-conventional ways? Have you tried to call, somebody, on your network, like, guy, how this prototype working? I just need maybe 1 million to register my company. Just start small and try to move up the ladder, based on your network. Don't try to I have this business plan, I need 25 million to make it work, I'm going out to look for money. This is just a challenge for you, try to tap to your network, move slow, okay, I want 500K to register my business. And if you look around right now, the cost of starting a business is becoming small, and I hope it will become smaller and smaller. And thankfully, the government is trying to centralize most of the processes. So it's easier for you to start a company right now, comparing to how hard it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So instead of us sitting and complaining like there's no capital, can we start small and try to build and grow our businesses?
When maybe you have the experience dealing with the frustration of different startups, the success, the failure, and also the investors. What do you think it's actually missing as a last point so that we can all go and concentrate into it?
Thank you so much. Good evening. I think I don't even know where to start. It's a systematic problem which requires systematic intervention. Some people talk about policy, some people talk about the education system, some people talk about entrepreneurial culture, some people talked about our personal backgrounds, but some few things that I've learned for the past 9 years working with startups in Tanzania. First of all, I'd like to collect one of my colleagues. So the same year iHub was starting in Kenya, Boon Innovation Hub and Kino were starting in Tanzania. So startup is not a new thing in Tanzania. So few things that if I think most of us are entrepreneurs here, we can understand and work with them, we can be able to raise money and grow our company. I think the first thing is systems and structures. Most of our companies lack systems and structures. Nobody can invest in a company which doesn't have system and structure. Nobody invests in a company where Jumanne owns 97% of the company. Nobody invests in a company where two co-founders, one co-founder owns 50% of the share and the other co-founder owns 50% of the share. Company that you cannot make decision, company that is not very clear who is calling the shots, company which doesn't have any strategic advantage to scale and grow. I think that's the first thing. If you're looking to build a company today and raise an investment, invest so much into building proper systems and structures that will allow you to grow and scale. We are growing right now, we're going to 6 countries. The reason we're able to do is that from day one, when we started, we allow a room for us to scale and grow. That is the first thing. The second thing, ideas worth nothing. That is a disease that is killing Tanzanians. They're ready to own 90% of 10,000. They don't care much about 20% of 200 billion. You're getting me? And this is what I've been telling a lot of people actually. Before even you talk about AI, private equity, venture capital, Series A, Series B, IPO, it's about your network. If you can leverage value with the people you're working with, try to tell them that I have a certain value in my business and we can always do something together so that you can allow me to scale, people will come on board. The problem is we want to have it all, and that's our problem. When we started Sahara Sparks, it started as an events management company. It started with, I think, 6 co-founders, and I was pretty much okay with it. We moved to start Sahara Consult Tanzania Limited. I knew I wanted to do something big, but I couldn't do it alone. I told 3 very smart guys, I'm starting a company, let's make sure our distribution of share doesn't cross 60%. And then we start this company. Bring in your value. They had money, they had resources, they had experience. Within 2 years, we're running a company which makes almost more than $2 million USD every year. You're getting this because I didn't want to have it all. I opened up the idea to them, they are ready for it, and they come on board. The third thing, which is very, 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 very important. We are okay to do 99 push-ups. We're not ready to go for 100 push-ups. We don't have discipline and commitment. I had an investor, Gain Global. They were looking to invest in nutrition companies in Tanzania. They paid me a lot of money to run an accelerator. And I had 56 companies applying to get that money. And these are later stage companies. They're looking for VC investment. Website of the company is on Instagram, on their personal website. You're getting me? Yeah. Someone is writing email on the subject. You're getting me? So you're trying to imagine someone who is doing a business that has a potential to scale, that actually has numbers, doesn't have a website, is putting his company on a personal Instagram account. It doesn't make sense to you. How do you text this guy an investor? Out of 56 companies, I had 2 investable companies, and those 2 investable companies didn't have websites. You're getting me? And they're looking to raise $750K to 1.5 million. So I think system and structures, ideas worth nothing, and you just need to do that extra push-up. You need to do more very early. We have this illusion of success. When someone is making a lot of $1,000 and they don't greet people, they behave all the way pampas, they come late for the meeting, they talk about complex English terms. And we become so delusional. They start to travel a lot. They don't put time into their business. They want to appear on all the newspapers and everything. And every time they encourage people. They've been running business for 2 years, and all of the time they're training everyone. So those kind of things is what limit us to grow. And I can tell you for a fact, sitting here discussing Kenya after 10 years is very embarrassing and disappointing to me. You're getting me? I really don't want us to discuss Kenya. I'm doing an event in Nairobi, I'm doing an event in Lagos, I'm doing an event in Alale, I'm doing an event in Lilongwe, for God's sake. Why should we discuss Kenya? Seriously? We should be discussing Alto University, Stanford, Silicon Valley, those like established innovation ecosystem. That should be our mindset. Silicon Savannah is done for us. There's a Silicon Valley coming.
Exactly.
You're getting me? So, just to wrap up, as an entrepreneur, build system and structures from day one. The first person you need to hire in your company is the finance person. Ideas worth nothing. You want to scale? Give yourself 45, 35 shares and open up the company. And finally, you are not there yet. You need that discipline and commitment. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Final comments from everyone.
I'm very happy to be here, and basically my final comment is that you are everything that you need to actually grow. At the end of the day, if you believe in yourself, you work, you're committed, self-drive, believe, you will get there.
Thank you for putting this together. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to actually discuss things that really matter to us as entrepreneurs, as corporate, and trying to bridge that gap. And I encourage you to do more of this.
But we don't want to come and discuss.
Yes.
We need you people to implement, because that's the main thing. If we discuss, you can even watch YouTube shows and people are discussing things. But now we need to stop complaining and do it.
So,
well, thanks, Eric, for putting up this thing. I think we are on the right track, if I can put it that way. We are not there yet, and we shouldn't be complacent, as Jumana has said. I think that will be the killing point. But we are not where we used to be 5 years ago. And I think once we kind of figure that out, I think it's going to keep us encouraging us to go forward in that direction. So we just we need to keep on engaging people who are making stuff happen, and then keep encouraging each other. I think we get there.
So the main thing is the founders is we'll be meeting every Thursday, first Thursday of the month, so that we'll bring different people. Today, let's say we have these people. The next month on Thursday, let me say if you're in the ecosystem, you just know it's happening. So after you have sell something to your client, just pass so that you can exchange ideas.
Yeah, I think we also need to continue to build up. Why is the mic is always stringing out?
Maybe the mic, you're afraid you want the mic.
What I'm trying to say is, I think we need to continue to do all these kind of collaborations and do more conversations, more programs in a practical sense. So if you're going to do your next Smart Lab event, you may have one specific theme for the event, and you can bring the minds around that theme to share the technical knowledge and the experience to startups to understand what it takes to go some roads. Some of the things Jumane mentioned about systems and structures, because there are two options. You may be a good company owner and be able to build all these type of structures and systems yourself, but sometimes company owners may have limitations. That's why we see a tech genius, if I may use the word, might need someone totally different level of understanding to be a co-founder or a partner, someone probably with finance background or operations background. And if they cannot do that, then I think these kind of programs need to help these companies understand how to build these systems, you know. So I give a simple example of myself. I've been consulting for 8 years in the finance and investment space. Maybe I know a few things that I can share to another company for them to build this system. Maybe they need to do an accounting system in a company. Sometimes it's not easy for a business owner to do that himself or herself. So if in ice cream, you may be good in, you know, making good ice cream, but you may not be good at finances. So maybe someone who's good in finances to help you build up a good finance system. So I think that's the kind of collaboration we need to build way forward.
Thank you very much. Any last word from the community?
Hi guys. So I resonate with the idea that ideas are not worth anything. Like, yeah, nobody's going to pay for your idea. Build a business, build a product. Thank you.
Any last word from anyone? Actually, I know we have a lot of people you want to integrate with M-Pesa, right? Sure. Anyone who wants to integrate with payments, actually this is the guy. We need to see him. We need to introduce yourself. This guy. Yeah.
Okay. So my name is Tolisedo. I'm working with Vodacom. So I've been in the industry for like 8 years. Vodacom and then Airtel, now back to Vodacom again. Okay. So this kind of gathering, to me, it's new. So I'm a bit scared. But it's good that I'm learning from you guys. Yeah, that's why I've been very quiet, trying to listen from you guys, trying to get those good ideas from you. I think all has been said. And just to add on what Jumane have said, idea, nothing, just nothing. You have to do something. So I see a lot of startups. Of course, they come to Vodacom with an idea. But as I said, if you're coming with an idea, it is very risky. Because what role are you playing? Are you just advising me to do it? What if I tell you, I also have the idea? I think when Edwin came to Vodacom with M-Paper, he didn't come with an idea. He came with a product. So he met me first, he said that I want to integrate. He didn't tell me that I want to partner with Vodacom. He said, I want to integrate with M-Pesa. I mean, someone was like delaying the process for no reason. And I said, it's a good idea. Let's help to implement, let's fast track the process. Completely owned by Smart Codes. After integration, people see. And then a lady came and said, do you know this idea? I said, yes, someone came to integrate, just to integrate. It's not a partnership. It's just a customer came to integrate. Can I have his contact? He said yes. And then next day, I saw Edwin come again for the meeting. And now it's a different discussion. Vodacom is asking for partnership. So if Edwin came with an idea at Vodacom, maybe someone could just find a vendor and do it. Yeah. Because if you are coming with an idea, you have to ask yourself, what role are you playing? Yeah, so that's all for me. I think I'll be coming to this so that I'll be learning a lot from you guys. Thanks.
One last moment.
Thank you. My name is Andrew. I'm the founder of A-Trader. So I think we've obviously got a lot to learn. That's from everything that everyone's been saying, that's obvious. One thing that I've really found is that it's very, very difficult to actually know for the two people you mentioned, or the one person, or whatever statistics it is of the investment that is coming into Tanzania, who those people actually are. And I think for us up-and-coming startups, the best people to learn from is somebody who's successfully gone through the process. But that process can sometimes be a little bit kind of secretive. You don't really know how much money they got. You don't really know, how they did it. Those are the people that we need to actually get access to. And there needs to be an open kind of dialogue where they're telling us, look, do this. This is what I did. This is how I made it. This was my valuation, because that's also a huge problem with startups in Tanzania. And if we can actually have that type of access, I think that's going to be a big thing to enable us to learn the way to do it as well.
I think this is a challenge to Salom. I think most of the startup might actually need it in terms of how can they structure their business to be investor ready. Because most of the time, if they're being asked to give out some share, they just, maybe it's 20%, it was what valuation and things like those. It's kind of new things, as they're not finance people from the bank or whatever. So those kind of small training, we can even facilitate when you...
Yeah, I think you only need to do one thing. Organize these people, put in a room and call someone to come talk to them. It's as simple as that. Yeah, anytime. Because one thing about raising funds, unfortunately, Jumanne has a lot of technical things. Unfortunately. Because that's what it takes, and it's very unfortunate that most of the business owners do not understand about these things. Like, if you give a very simple example, we raise funds for an education institution based in Arusha School, actually, and one of the technical terms actually put in the term sheet was in the venture capital called drag along. So drag along is when the VC wants to exit, wants to sell the shares, plus your shares, and you're not ready to sell. Drag along means if you signed for drag along, that means he will drag you with him to sell the shares, even when you're not ready. So these are some of the things that people need to understand about fundraising. So you just need to put people in a room, and then let's talk about fundraising. What sort of things that require a legal person to talk about the legal terms? If there are issues about taxes, because there are a lot of taxes involved. You're selling your shares, there's a capital gain tax, you're supposed to pay TRA. So bringing TRA guy to come talk to people about the tax implications of raising capital, legal implications of raising capital, financial implications of raising capital. There are a lot of things, because at the end of the day, this is not a loan. So loan is the simplest source of finance you can get for your company, because NMB gives you a checklist. Sorry, giving an example of NMB. So a bank will give you a checklist. You just tick. Collateral, tick. Business plan, tick. No trade account, 3 years, tick. Bank statement, tick. Everything ticks, you get a loan. And no bank